Greetings everyone wherever you are watching from. Tinubu has disagreed with awaiting court decision, begins team building to rule Nigeria. This man, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is mean and ready to take anything. He is indeed ready to take over power by fire, by force. This can show the height of negligence we as the citizens of Nigeria can tolerate, since the old system refused to give away. It is unfortunate that reality is not considered in Nigeria. The old politicians never take reality serious, and this is why Nigeria is stationary today. Tinubu begins team building. However, citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria have questioned whether or not Nigeria still have a law, judging by no final verdict was pronounced about who sits there as the next president, and the Tinubu went ahead and began to form his tenorial team. Tinubu begins team building, considers Gbajabiamila chief of staff ahead of his takeover on May 29 as the 16th president of Nigeria. The president-elect, Bola Tinubu, has already begun team building with Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, said to have been penciled as his chief of staff, also believed to be considered for some serious roles in the coming administration, are his former commissioner for finance, Wele Edun, and the Kebbi State Governor, Atiku Bagudu, among other familiar faces currently being identified for different roles. And we can look into the discussions by the journalists, namely Dr. Ruben and Rufai Oseni at Arise News for insight regarding this matter.
Ahead of his takeover on May 29 as the 16th president of Nigeria, President-elect Bola Tinubu has already begun his team building with Speaker of House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, said to have been penciled down as his chief of staff, also believed to be considered for some serious role in the coming administration as former Commissioner for Finance Wale Edun and Kebbi State Governor Atiku Bagudu, among other familiar faces being currently identified for different roles. This is as a renowned playwright and popular Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, has warned Tinubu against failing to restructure the country, saying it was the only way out of the current national ordeal. However, in readiness for his administration's takeover next month, this day gathered that Gbajabiamila has already begun to discharge the duties of the Chief of Staff to Tinubu, having unofficially resumed with him in France with a view to working out processes and plans, including calendarizing his activities. Dr. Bati, a lot to talk about.
Well, given his experience as, a former governor of Lagos State for 2 terms and his experience in politics, I think Nigerians can be, confident that, when the president-elect assumes office, it's not going to take up to 6 months to form a cabinet. And if it is indeed, as reported, the case that he's already building his team, that is to be expected, because the challenges ahead are enormous. And the next president of Nigeria cannot afford to wait, because the people themselves are anxious about what the immediate future portends. The president of Nigeria has enormous, executive powers under Section 5 of the Constitution. And the Constitution giving him those powers also recognizes that he cannot, do everything alone. He needs to form a team. He needs to have a team. And this team, has to come from every part of Nigeria, and that team must be able to deliver. So if indeed, as reported, the president-elect is already putting the team together, well, that's perfectly in order. That's how it's supposed to be. Some people may say, well, why doesn't he wait till, the matter in court is determined? Well, the thing to realize is that there is a window of about 180 days for, election petitions. So if a man is going to be sworn in on May 29 and the transition process has started, it's to be expected that on his own part, he will begin to put a team together. What we can insist upon is that the next president of Nigeria, the president-elect, should put together a team of the best and the brightest. Not Division 2, Division 3 people. And there are more than, enough intelligent, capable, competent, distinguished Nigerians, both at home and overseas. So, the president-elect has to cast his net wide both locally and internationally.
According to the source, Tinubu has appointed Edu and Bagudu into his economic team, which he considered a critical sector requiring attention immediately he resumes office. Tinubu calls for reconciliation and promised to carry everyone along in his administration. However, citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria have questioned whether or not Nigeria still have a law, judging by no final verdict was pronounced about who sits there as the next president, and the Tinubu went ahead and began to form his tenorial team.
President-elect has to cast his net wide, both locally and internationally. And then secondly, of course, he himself has made the point that he's calling on everybody to come together, work with him. Reconciliation. He talked about reconciliation. He talked about building a government that will carry everybody along. The first signal that will be sent out will be, the composition of that government. Of course, the Constitution prescribes, the basic about the cabinet, for example. The cabinet will have to reflect all the states of the federation. But more than that, there is so much patronage to be dispensed, but the emphasis should not be on patronage. The emphasis should not be on the payment of IOU, many of which every president, will acquire in the process of emerging as president. Emphasis should be on ability, not job for the boys. And that is one thing, that, critics, analysts will be looking forward to. Already, beyond putting a team together, I see that people are already setting an agenda for the president-elect. Well, one, he has his manifesto, 80-page manifesto, in which he talks about, restoring hope back to Nigeria. Yes, Nigerians want that hope to be restored in real sense. Two, he has been told by no less a person than the Nobel laureate Professor Soyinka that he has to focus on the issue of restructuring, which has been on the table for a very long time, but nobody has been able to get round to it. And Professor Soyinka is saying, look, there are many voices in the room now, in the country. Those voices also have to be heard. Hearing those voices, listening to those voices, would provide a pathway towards the healing and the reconciliation that we have been talking about. But whatever happens, there are people who are even saying the starting point with regard to restructuring, which means many things to many people, will have to be a review or, further amendment of the 1999 Constitution, which many analysts have said, look, this is a military imposed constitution, despite the various alterations that we have had to that constitution. So there's a lot of work to do. There's fuel subsidy to worry about. There is the status of the refineries to worry about. There is revenue to worry about. There's so much. But we'll see.
Okay, so a lot of things has to be said. Politics has started real time. The politics will be about who will take what, when, and how. Will they take it in his administration, Bola Tinubu's administration? And people have started aligning. BVAS has been mentioned. In fact, there's a talk that he has even started his role already as, unofficially as the chief of staff. Is with him out there in Paris, overseeing affairs as they go ahead and plan. Other people are jostling, so there are other people to also be mentioned in the thick of things. Mentioned Wale Edu, which we all know is antecedent with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his antecedents in the finance sector. And a couple of other people are coming up there. Because when you look at it critically, he is planning for his administration.
Here are a couple of arguments made.
So people are also making the argument that all of this, why can't they wait? But the question I'll also ask people that say, why can't they wait, is that the nature abhors a vacuum. When swearing in happens, somebody must hit the ground running. All right? But you can also make the argument when you revert to the Uwe's report that talks about, and this was over 13 years ago, and blimey, it's sad that nothing was done about it, that talked about the fact that we should check our legal process in such a way that verdicts on election matters are given before swearing in happens. And I think for a lot of Nigerians out there, it is time to take a look at that waste report again and ensure that some parts that were not implemented were implemented, rather than the pick and choose thing we do. So, he's been able to set all of this out. And for this is a welcome development. Because we all know how this country pretty much grinded for the first 6 months under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, because we're looking for ministers that we finally were people that we had already known, and how long the process took. And when that process went on, it was an indication that we're not ready for the world as regards transaction and meeting people, because, you know, ministers administer, and you need that administration across board for the ministries to be able to function effectively. Also, I would like to even see a day, and kudos to him that he started planning on this. I would also like to see a day where, as it is done, although some people will argue that, oh, that's a parliamentary system of government, that you have, for anybody trying to run, they already have a proposed list of a shadow cabinet on ground, so that it is plug and play and people can start from day one. As regards the talk on restructuring that Professor Wole Soyinka brought out, it's very nice. But, you know, it is also a reflection of the failed promises of the APC. Because the fact that we are talking restructuring talk now is an indication that politicians don't keep to the things they say. This was the same APC that even wrote a blueprint on it, led by Nasir El-Rufai, and that was what it touted from 2015. But 8 years down the line, nothing has been done. So I'm happy that Professor Wole Soyinka has reminded the President-elect Bola Tinubu on this, and it's incumbent on politicians to be able to keep their promises. It's as simple as that. Also, we'd like to see how, when all of this happens, he will make the key decisions. I heard his presidential campaign counsel were saying he will give a timeline once he's sworn in as regards the decision he will make on subsidy. That's a very critical one. Because you see, what makes a leader is decision. The decision he makes at time of critical national issues. And those decisions will be what we'll judge the administration by, vis-a-vis his campaign manifesto that we already have on ground. And someone like me will be looking out for the day when student loan will kick off. If student loan don't kick off, we'll talk to high heavens, because that's a benchmark at which you're going to hold politicians. Also, what he will do as regards subsidy. He said he will pull out subsidy. We're waiting till he pulls out subsidy. He says he will revive the economy. We are waiting for that economic miracle. And those are the things we're going to hold him by. Because that is how governance is done. And it's not only the media that will do it. A lot of people out there watching. There's something also called the Office of the Citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the most important office, I tell people. Even more important than any office in this country. So you sitting in the Office of the Citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you've got your right, as enshrined in the Constitution. You have the capacity to be able to inquire.
Anthony Ku, reporter for Kibri's Got Talent.